We begin this week Parshat Tetzaveh. We spoke at length last week about the construction of the Mishkan, the process in which it was built, the incredible response, therefore, of the Jewish people. And we continue with that with now Parshat Tetzaveh. And Parshat Tetzaveh is noted for a number of things. One of the things that's most well known about Parshat Tetzaveh is what is absent. We're going to read the Megillah next week, and I'm sure you've all heard. I'm sure this is not the first time that somebody will say to you, God's name is not anywhere in Megillat Esther. Probably heard about it. Maybe hear about it again this year. And in a similar way, Parsha Tetzaveh is the only parsha from the beginning of Sefer Shemot to the end of Dvarim where Moshe Rabbeinu's name does not appear. It starts V'ata Tetzaveh. It doesn't say V'daber Hashem el Moshe lemor V'ata Tetzaveh. God comes to Moshe, but and says, "V'ata tetzaveh." Now you should go and command your brother to teach him how to light the flame of the menorah. And a well-known idea from rabbis, from Chazal, is that this is because in Parshat Kitisa next week we're going to have Moshe, when God threatens to destroy the Jewish people in the aftermath of the Egel Hazahav, of the golden calf. Moshe says, "Mecheni na misifrecha asher katafta, erase me from your book. If this is the way you're responding, God, I want to have no association with you. I'm not going to be party to this. I'm going to disappear entirely." And well, God doesn't take Moshe out of the entire book, so there's this idea that God takes Moshe out of the parsha prior to Kitisa, Parshat Tetzaveh. There's another idea related to that. It's a cute idea. It's a nice idea. But Tetzaveh is about the kahuna. Last week was much more. Last Shabbos read Truma. It's about the Aron. Yes, the Kohanim are going to work, but it's about the Aron. It's about the menorah. It's about the construction. And we spoke about this at length. Everybody is allowed to give to the Mishkan. It's not going to be the I don't know, the Walton family Mishkan or the Gates family Mishkan or whatever it's going to be. It's the Mishkan of the entire Jewish people. And so it's not about Aaron, even if Aaron and his children are going to be the Kohanim in the Mishkan. It's about the entirety of the Jewish people. Now, Tetzaveh is much more about the Kuhuna. And Moshe has to take a step back so Aaron can take a step forward. Right? Important aspect of leadership is the ability to withdraw so others can shine. I know that on the rare occasion I'm giving a class and all of a sudden the students are arguing with each other, you feel good. You say, they have some passion, and I've set them up for them to now go and to go and talk, go and discuss, go and really get into the issues. And so that's in a sense what we have here. Yes, God, you could say, takes Moshe's name out because Moshe says, erase me from your book, and you can say both. Moshe also doesn't want his name in here because it's not about Moshe. And Moshe is going to disappear and command Aaron and let Aaron be there. Now, the first thing that we talk about in this parsha is the Shemen Zayit Zach, the oil that is used to light the menorah. The first drop was extracted by pressing, not grinding. The oil, the menorah has to have special oil. It burns oil that has endured pressure. It's an idea. You want to know why the menorah is the symbol for the Jewish people? You could take it there. The same way we have endured pressure. It's a model for Jewish history, for suffering, unfortunately. But suffering can cause some refinement and some illumination. But the word that two interesting words in terms that I really find fascinating about in this opening verse and Parsha Tetzaveh, we have the word tamid, that it has to be constant, but really this lahalot. And it's not the only place where in terms of a flame we have lahalot, we'll have a Parshat Behalotcha. In Sefer Bamidbar, Balotcha Tanerot, El Mul Pnei Menorah Ya'iru Shivat Tanerot. Right? It also there talks about laha'alot. We're generally in Hebrew, and it's in the Tanakh. It's not like it's not here. Lahadlik. When we light our Chanukiot on Hanukkah, the bracha is not laha'alot. ner Chanukah. It's lehadlik ner Chanukah. But here we have laha'alot. Ha'alot, like the word aliyah, whether you're being called up to the Torah on Shabbos or Monday morning, or whether you are going to the land of Israel. Alot means to rise. It doesn't say lahadlik, but rather it says to rise. And there's some very interesting things that have been pointed out by different commentaries about that word, whether it be here, whether it be in Parshat Bahalotcha. We'll just mention a couple of different ideas. So firstly, if we look at Rashi, Rashi says that you have to light it until the flame rises on its own. That's the word laha'alot. Lahadlik, and we have this, when you're lighting your Hanukkah candles, you can think sometimes you light the candle and it burns out of 3 seconds. You can say it burns out in 3 seconds. It hasn't yet, the flame is not sort of rising on its own. But you can look at it, and this way we'll look at a number of different explanations of the details of this language, is it's an educational metaphor. You haven't fulfilled your role when you ignite somebody only temporarily. You succeed when their flame becomes self-sustaining. The goal is to teach somebody, whether it's a parent, whether it's a teacher or a rabbi, whatever it is, to have them gain their independence in Avodat Hashem, have them gain their independence in Jewish knowledge and Jewish learning and in living life as a parent, etc., etc. And so it's a beautiful idea. Look at the language of Rashi, right? You laha'alot, you must light it until the flame is sort of rising on its own, not when the flame is being supported by the candle. The words in Rashi just shetzarich lahadlik ad shetehei shal hevet ola me'aleha. Right, again, it has to be ola me'aleh. It has to come up on its own. There are other commentaries that say, in a sense, similar things and similar ideas, and just interesting ideas. So there's a commentary, 19th century commentary, Ktava Kabbalah, and he wrote that the ha'alot is actually a reflexive verb. Reflexive verb means it comes back to you. It reflects back to you. The flame rises, but the person who lights, the person who tends the flame, rises in well. When you engage in proper avodat Hashem, the act elevates you. Lighting is the mechanics. Lighting is what is done technically to the candle, to the wax, to the flame, but laha'alot, it pushes back to you and it allows you to rise, and that sort of is supposed to be transformational. And I think about the performance of a mitzvah. I'm doing something, right? I put on my tefillin, so okay, that's great. I made the bracha, the tefillin are on me, but what's supposed to have is I am supposed to be elevated through the putting on of my tefillin. I am supposed to be elevated through the lighting of Shabbat candles, through the lighting. So it's laha'alot ner tamid. He sees it as a reflexive verb impacting back to him. One other, we have the Ramban. The Ramban also is trying to explain why we have laha'alot and baha'alotcha, both of these things. He talks about the flame always rising upward, right? Meaning, you think about a flame. How does a flame go? A flame, right? It flickers. It moves. It moves upward. That's the way that it moves, and it's supposed to be sort of our nature is supposed to be in that similar way. We're supposed to be rising upwards. So you should know, if you try to look for this Ramban, it's not here. It's actually in Bamidbar. He talks about it by Bahatlotcha Taneirot, where again we have the same language that's used about allowing the flame to rise. So the nature of the world, in a sense, of people, is we're supposed to be rising up. Sort of, in a sense, goes back to something we may have discussed all the way back with Yaakov and Esav. Esav is born Asoy. He's done. He's completed. He's born, in a sense. His birth seems to be much more of an animal birth. He's already like the fully formed unit with all of his hair on him and everything. Yaakov is born as the Akev. Yaakov is the heel. Yaakov is the bottom. And what we're supposed to do naturally is grow up obviously get taller, get bigger, but spiritually grow higher in that sense. And so the Ramban has that idea, balotcha et hanerot, it has to be, it's about laha'alot, that we have to, and we can be moving up in that way. One last idea related to it. We'll mention one more commentary about it is the Sforno. He talks about lahagbia oro, right? You have to elevate the light, right? Again, lagbia is like you think of Hagba and Shul picking up the Torah. He's talking about specifically that word again. Why is it laha'alot? Why is it baha'alotcha? Right? It's the qualitative elevation of the light. It's not merely the ignition. And that's it's like my father used to say, it's easier to have a child than to raise a child. And I know for some people it's hard to have a child, so not trying to mock that, but raising a child's much harder. Takes especially for the father, takes years, takes forever. You're always trying to continue to raise your children, make them more independent, make them understand how do they act in situation. It's one thing to light the flame, it's something else to allow that flame to elevate and to stay lit. And not merely that sense of ignition shows the responsibility, right? If we talked earlier that the sort of the Tava Kabbalah says the person rises through the performance of the mitzvah. I light the candle, but I am sort of in a sense I am being ola, I am rising through the mitzvah for the sforno. To me, the way I understand him is the lighting makes me responsible to keep that flame rising up. Now, obviously, not standing there with your, see my hand, standing there with your candle in front, but the idea, if we think about it in relationship with people, especially children and students, right? Really allowing them. It's not something you can just do one day and then it's done with. And all these things, and this is part of the difficulty, is lalot ner tamid. It's something that is constant. It's not something that happens one time. If we want to understand this sort of in this educational as a metaphor, education to parenting, however it is, it's tamid. It's constant and it's always. I remember a comment that I have this rabbi in Denver, Rabbi Hillel Goldberg, wrote many books on the Musar movement. Very smart, fascinating guy. Also, then wrote a halachic svarim about the Vilna Gaon. And I remember one time, I think it was with him, we talking about people who convert to Judaism, and he says you can't convert them and then let them go. Right? All of us here, we have relatives, we have this, we have that, we have people who are part of the Jewish community, people we can call on. Who are you going to come? Who are you going to invite for Shabbos? Who's going to come for Yantif? So even if you're not the most popular, you have some people in your orbit. But unfortunately, very often people who convert, they have a certain sense of distance, and certainly on these holidays from members of their families, from whatever religion they came from. And he said, when rabbis, when people are very involved in converting people, you have them for your lifetime. Now, he wasn't saying it sort of as a burden. He was saying, you have this responsibility to continue to support them because who else is going to support them? Who else is going to be there for them? And I think it's very, very true of this idea as well, the halot ner tamid, thinking of that it has to be tamid if you want the students to continue to move up. You want your kids to continue to move up. You can't say one day, I'm done. You continue with your teaching, you continue with your parenting, however we want to put it, and hopefully that allows you and allows them to continue to be ma'aleh, to continue to move upwards. Amen.